Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be talking about kloof frog breeding biology and its implications for conservation of the species. I'm talking on behalf of co-authors Adrian Armstrong from Ezimbello, KZN Wildlife, my colleagues John Tarrant and Charisse Acker from the Endangered Wildlife Trust, as well as Leslie and Mike Bentley, who are Vernon Crooks Nature Reserve honorary officers. Why are we working on the kloof frog? It is endangered on the IUCN Red List and is thus one of the focal species of our threatened amphibian program at the EWT. It is also unique in many respects and the only species in its genus. Amphibians are globally the most threatened class of vertebrates. Hence, an entire program of work at the EWT is dedicated to their conservation. The kloof frog's red listing is due to its restricted range and a 50% loss in habitat in the past 100 years. It is endemic to South Africa, occurring only in the coastal forests of southern KwaZulu-Natal and northern Eastern Cape provinces, below 900 meters in altitude. It is associated with streams and pools in scarp and gallery forest. The females deposit their egg clumps on vegetation or rock surfaces overhanging water. These egg clumps are fairly conspicuous and are thus ideal to use for monitoring the species. This map shows the current kloof frog monitoring sites. In order to monitor the status of the species, the team developed a monitoring protocol in 2013. Aimed specifically at monitoring the presence and location of these egg clumps as an indicator of breeding activity and the population health of the species. The monitoring protocol was tested and it was rolled out in early 2014 in Vernon Crooks Nature Reserve. After further refinements, it was rolled out in 2 reserves in the Eastern Cape, namely Salaka and Hluleka Nature Reserves in 2015. In 2017, monitoring of kloof frogs started at Crown Eagle Estate, where it is a citizen science project involving 2 schools. At this site, kloof frog was discovered a few years ago as part of an environmental impact assessment. This discovery prevented the construction of a road, which would have destroyed the population. The last site to be included is Adams Mission in 2020, where our threatened amphibian program began working on Pickersgill's reed frog, another threatened frog species, only to discover that kloof frogs also occurred here. Steps are being taken to protect the site, and it is the only known site where these 2 species co-occur. In 2020, we developed an electronic data capture form. This greatly assists with data capture and ensures an improved and more standardized and consistent data set. Let's focus in on Vernon Crooks Nature Reserve. Here, monitoring of kloof frogs has been ongoing from 2014 to the present day. Monitoring was initially monthly. However, it costs time and fuel to drive out to the site every month. So in 2018, the decision was made to monitor twice a year during the peak breeding season. Regular monitoring is done along a 370-meter-long transect, shown in red. Other sites have been surveyed across the reserve, shown in grey, to get an understanding of their distribution across the reserve. So let's look at the results from Vernon Crooks. These 2 images show egg clumps. The one on the left has been laid on a leaf, while the one on the right has been laid on a twig. The tadpoles develop in the egg clump and hatch after about 7 days, at which point they fall into the pool of water below to continue their development. This graph shows the surfaces to which egg clumps are attached. Most egg clumps are laid on leaves. The remainder are laid on twigs, branches, rocks, tree trunks, roots, and softer stems. This graph shows the particular species on which kloof frogs lay their egg clumps. You can see from the graph that they use a wide variety of plants. The most frequently used are the silverleaf milk plum and the fireball lily. We don't know whether these are preferred plants or whether females are simply laying on what is available. A previous study, published in 1989, found that they use different plant species. This suggests that the available suite of plants might have changed over time. This could be to disturbance along the streams due to cattle trampling, which might destroy the smaller herbs along the stream edges. This graph is from sites other than VERNON CROOKES, and you can see that the plant species here are slightly different. Wild ginger is the most frequently used plant at Crowned Eagle Estate, and it is also an alien invasive. We don't know whether this has any implications for breeding success, but it suggests that alien clearing along streams might be an important management intervention for the species. In the next few graphs, I'll show you a number of metrics that we can use to compare between sites as data collection at sites improves, as well as looking for changes over time in individual sites. This first graph shows the height of egg clumps above water. In the study, we found that the mean height of egg clumps above water was about 73 centimeters. The study from 1989 found that the mean height of egg clumps above water was 58 centimeters. It does seem like kloof frogs are laying their egg clumps higher up than in the earlier study, and this is possibly because the shorter vegetation along the streams is now being trampled by cattle, and there are fewer plants at lower heights. This graph shows the depth of water below egg clumps. The mean depth of water below egg clumps is close to 15 centimeters. Egg clumps are laid above slow-flowing pools where the tadpoles can safely develop. Because egg clumps are laid on plants on the water's edge, water here is usually quite shallow. A small percentage of egg clumps were not laid over water, but rather over sand, rocks, or over a bank, and the implications of this is that the tadpoles won't be able to make it safely to water. This graph shows shading over egg clumps. You can see that the vast majority of egg clumps are laid in full or partial shade, and only a very small percentage are laid in the full sun. Egg clumps are at risk of drying out, and female frogs take care to keep the egg clumps moist. At some sites, bark from medicinal trees, in particular quinine trees and wild plums, is being harvested. These trees are not used for egg laying, but are shade trees, and are therefore critical for maintaining the habitat structure that is ideal for kloof frogs. This slide shows the number of eggs in each egg clump, and we found that the average number of eggs per egg clump was 60. The team started off by using a manual method for counting eggs in photos by marking each egg with a colored marker, but we've since progressed to using counting software called ..goose, which speeds up the counting process significantly. These two graphs show the number of egg clumps counted every month on the left and the rainfall on the right. Laying of egg clumps coincides with higher rainfall as well as with warmer temperatures. The rainfall graph shows rain in the last decade in blue and rainfall in the previous approximately 30 years shown in red. It seems that there is less rain in April from 2013 onwards than before. This suggests that the breeding season might be becoming shorter, and it is worth monitoring going forward. So I'll end off with a summary of our recommendations and next steps. Based on our observations, and because amphibians are known to be intolerant of change, our conservation recommendations are to retain shade trees along streams, to limit trampling of small herbaceous plants along streams, and also to limit the spread of alien invasive plants along streams. This ties in with the UN Declaration on Ecosystem Restoration, which calls for preventing, halting, and reversing the degradation of ecosystems over the next decade. In terms of next steps, we have a lot more data to analyze, to pull out patterns, and we're hoping to get a student to assist with this work. We also need to improve the quality of monitoring at the other sites so that we can make better comparisons between sites and going forward. We also need to monitor the habitat to better understand the impacts of trampling, removal of shade trees and alien invasives. And then lastly, in terms of climate change, we need to investigate the potential impact of changing rainfall patterns and temperature on breeding success and distribution. I'd like to end off by thanking our volunteers and collaborators, specifically Brian Reeves and the field rangers from the Eastern Cape, Brenda and Stuart Angus, Clive and Mervyn George, and the 2 schools who are monitoring at Crown Eagle Estate. And I'd also like to thank our funders, RMB, Synchronicity Earth, and IUCN SOS. And thank you for your attention.